Hey guys, so this is going to be an explanation of some of the basics of Photoshop. Many of you already know this, but for those who have never used it or are still beginning, this will be aimed towards you. So to begin with, I'm using Adobe Photoshop CC Creative Cloud 2015. You can get this from the link that's provided on the syllabus. It's free for you if you're a student at UConn. And this is the first screen that comes up when you open it up. What you want to do at the beginning is to tell it what type of document that you want to work in. So we're going to hit New, right? This window comes up, and in this window we can actually choose different types of documents. So say you're going to do a project that's based on the web, or film or video. If you're going to do something that's for print purposes, you can choose it all here. Since we're working in memes this week, let's choose web. And what it does is it kind of brings up this preset. In this case, it's going to be a composition that's 1366 pixels wide by 768 pixels tall. You can change this. Let's make it, I don't know, let's say 800 pixels tall. And then you can actually then change the resolution if you'd like. We're going to keep it at 72 because anytime you're working on the web or video, the resolution of anything you work on in Photoshop should be 72. If you're going to work in print, then you go 300. But we're going to keep 72 for now. Up here, you can give it a name. I'm naming it Meme Composition 1. And hit OK. And here you have this composition. It's 800 wide by 1366 pixels wide by 800 tall. So this is basically sort of like a canvas. This is where you work. There are three very important windows in Photoshop. This being the first one. The next one being the toolbar over here. These are all the tools that you'll be using as you work. Okay, and that's always going to be on the left. And then the third one is this over here, the layers tool. Photoshop works in layers. Let me give you an idea of how the layers work. So let's do this. I'm going to choose the pencil tool over here, okay? And I'm going to choose a color. You can always choose different colors that you want to work with down here. Let's just go with blue because it happens to be there. I'm going to draw a straight line across. Okay? If you always come back up to here, this is your move tool. You can then click and move what you've drawn around. But what I want to show you is that this has created a blue line over here on this one layer. We drew this blue line on layer 1. If I were to, say, take this black swatch here, I just changed the color that I'm going to use by clicking these two arrows here. You can go this or that. And again, choosing the pencil tool, and let's say I drew a circle over this. Okay. You'll notice that here in layer 1, I drew that on the same layer. I'm going to come up here to the move tool. You'll notice that the blue line and the circle, they're married basically. They're connected. I can't very easily move the black circle anymore because I drew it on the same layer. The great thing about Photoshop is that it actually allows you to have multiple layers, right? So if I want to be able to draw that black circle on a second layer, I would come down to here. You hover over it, you'll always get the little pop-up that tells you what it is. Create a new layer. Click that. You get a second layer. With that layer highlighted, I'm going to use the black pencil tool. I'll draw a circle again over it. Well, somewhat of a circle. Come up to the move, and you'll see that I can now move the black circle because I've got it highlighted over here. Or I can even highlight the blue line and move that, do whatever I want with it. Okay? This is the great thing about it. It's almost like having a bunch of photos on your desktop, actual photos on a desk, and you can just kind of making a collage by putting them on top of each other. If you want to change the layer order, you can drag one layer on top of the other, and then you now have the blue on top of that. Okay? So let's do this. Let's create another layer. The layer, this one is going to be layer 3, and I'm going to choose a different color. I don't want to use black this time, or blue. All you have to do is click on this little color swatch, and then this window comes up. Let's choose like a deep red or something like this right here. Okay? Maybe like a little bit like that. And you click OK. And let's see. With this one, I'm going to use the paint bucket tool. The paint bucket tool is here. You'll notice that there's a little triangle at the bottom right corner of most of these tools, which tells you that if you click and hold down, you got different tools within these tools. And I say this because I think if you've opened up Photoshop for the first time, you'll have this gradient tool, and you'll say, where is the paint bucket tool if you want to use it? All you got to do is hold it down, and there's the paint bucket tool right there. Click it, and there it is. So, with layer 3 highlighted, I can take this paint bucket tool and click once, and it basically fills the entire frame with the red, the color red. I'll use my move tool and move it around so you can see what basically just happened there. It's a great way of actually filling in color fast. Now I do this too so that I can then now show you the selection tools. Basically, if you want to select an area and only work on that specific area of a composition, you're going to use the selection tools, and there's a number of them. The first one up here is the marquee tool. This allows you to make rectangle shapes or oval or circle shapes, and with it activated you get these crosshairs, and you click and you drag, and now you have that particular part of the composition selected. With that, you can do anything to that area. If I choose to hit delete, it'll delete just what's inside of the selection tool. And you notice over here, layer 3 is what we deleted, that part. With the selection tools, you can then come up to select here and hit deselect, or Command D on an Apple Mac computer, and then you'll see that all the lines went away. I'm going to come back to my move tool, right? And you can see it's like a window now. I'm going to move this layer down to underneath to the bottom, okay, to bring those up on top. Because the next selection tool I'm going to show you is the magic wand, and that's this one right here, okay, magic wand. What that allows you to do is to highlight very quickly an entire section of a shape that is similar. So let's just say the blue. I'm going to just highlight the blue line. I click over it, and you'll see the dots that come around it. It's highlighted only the blue. And you say, why do I do that? Well, you might want to just draw within those lines. So let me show you this. If you go to your pencil tool again, but you hold it down and you choose the brush, which is sort of an airbrush tool. And let's choose a color here similar to blue, maybe a little bit lighter, like a just almost white. And then click and sort of paint over this. You'll see that what I'm doing is I'm painting these stripes over the blue area, but it's never going outside of that selected area. The magic wand tool allowed me to select only this section here, okay? Only this section here. Come up and you can hit deselect, and there you go. You have these different stripes. If you want to change the size of a brush that you're using, let's come back to the airbrush again. Let's make another layer, and let's make this layer blue, yellow. Up here, okay. You'll notice that with this, the airbrush or the pencil tool, any of these things, highlighted, you're using them, you'll have this up here. Click it. This allows you to change the size of the tool. So we're at 188. Let's make it like 460. Okay. You can see now I'm dealing with a much wider, broader tool. And I can just click it once, and there's a little bit there, or I could draw across with it and paint with it like this. If I wanted to then move this underneath, you get all these different ways of actually affecting shapes and colors within Photoshop. Another thing you can do, instead of just making marks, is to actually erase. And you can do that by using this tool here, the eraser tool. And again, it works the same way that brushes do. You come up here and there are different sizes, right? So let's go with like size 55. And I'm going to try and erase part of, let's say, this black circle. So I'll highlight the layer that's the black circle. I'll come in and I just click and drag over it. And there you go. Now say you don't want to have like these hard edges on the eraser. Say you want to sort of erase out in more of a feathered kind of way. You can come up here and not only size but hardness. You can come down, bring this down, I don't know, something like 12. And you can see that now I'm erasing in a much more feathered-like fashion. If I increase the size at the same time and bring the hardness down, it'll be a nice soft edge. You can play around with it and do different things that way. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is how can you actually work and apply this to photos. So you can come up to File, you can go to Open, and find a photo. In this case, I'm going to use this dog in the snow. Look at that face. Wow. Hit Open. And it opens it, and you notice up here there are two tabs now. We were previously working in that. Now we're going to work on this with the dog in the snow. I'm going to enlarge it a little bit to like 200%. This down here does not really change the resolution. It just makes it larger so you can get in and see what you're working on. So there's the dog. Okay. Let's say that we wanted to add text on top of the dog. So very much like you were using all these shapes and layers in here, you can do the same thing with the dog. I'm going to happen to use text this time, and you come over to your text tool and you can go up top, you can choose the size. Let's say we want 72 and we want it to be in a black font. Click here, you get a cursor and you can type away. Come up to your move tool and you can move this over, and now you have text. Notice over here that it creates another layer. So you now have a text layer on top of the dog picture. If you want to manipulate the text with this text layer activated, you can come over to here. This is your character window. Okay, if this is not showing, you can always come up to your window menu item and look up all of the windows that we're using. This one happens to be character, and there it is. So we chose 72. Let's bring it down to 60 point font. And from in here, you can also choose different fonts. All right. Let's go with that one. You can keep it bold or make it regular. Let's keep it bold. You can change your tracking. Let's say we want it to be like 100%, and it'll widen the letters. Back down to 0. Let's make it like -10. There you go. Now you have all of this ability right here. You can use this. Say you wanted to add more text to that same layer. You'd come back to your text tool. You'd come in here and you click, You get your blinking cursor, and just like you would use in Microsoft Word, you click return and you type away. Woohoo! Now you got two lines here, right? And I just went back to my move tool to be able to move it around. You can also, if you wanted to, let's add another layer, draw on top of this for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, but let's just do it. I'm going to use my brush tool. It's very large at 460. Let's bring it down to 166. And you can draw on top. Now you see that I just did sort of a, maybe like a slight vignette on the bottom left here. But it's on top of the text. Again, you can click and drag this down, put the text down there. With this highlighted, you could also have the ability up here to change the opacity of that particular layer. You can bring this down. So watch the blue. See how now I'm bringing it a little bit down to 52%. And there's still blue, but I can see through because I brought the opacity of that layer down. What I didn't say before is that not only can you move layers, you also have the ability to turn them on and off. And that's by clicking these little eyeballs here. So there's the blue layer, turned on, turned off, turned back on. Same thing with the text. Now, one thing I'm going to give you a heads up on, if you bring in a picture and it's a background image, you'll see that it's a little locked symbol here, a little lock symbol. It's impossible to affect that background with that lock symbol on there. What I typically do is with the background highlighted, I come up, I click this, and I hit duplicate layer, hit yes, and I turn off the background. You notice that now this is the same image of the dog, but it's no longer locked. So I can do things to it. I can turn it on and off, I can move it around, and so there you have it. Now, let's say you want to combine pictures. Let's open up another picture. Here's one of a dog punching a cat. I mean a cat punching a dog, sorry. Up here you have your three tabs. There's the first one we were working in. There's the dog. Here's the cat punching the dog. So we want to combine the cat punching the dog with this big bulldog. Come back to here. With your move tool selected, you can click and drag the picture up to this one and then back down to here. And there it is. And I can move this over. And I'm going to try and get this composition to be a little bit more balanced. But you'll notice that the cat punching the dog is just too small from top to bottom. So in order to change size, you can come up to Edit. Well, first of all, make sure that you highlight the layer that you want to affect. Then you come up to Edit, Transform, Scale. And then you can basically take the corners and move it around. Now, see how it gets stretched? You might not want it to stretch like that. So simply hold down the Shift key when you take a corner, and it brings it to size proportionally, top to bottom. And you can make it smaller or larger. When you get it to the point that you want it to be, just double click, and now it's set. So I'm going to bring this over to here, and you can see that obviously this layer is blocking out the dog. If I bring that down, the dog is blocking out them. So why don't I do this? I'll bring this up top here. With that layer activated, I'm going to come up to my selection tool again. I click and I drag a box over this left side, because all I want to do is I just want to keep the right side. With the left side selected, I can now hit delete, gets rid of that part, come up to select, deselect, gets rid of all the dotted lines, and there is somewhat of a finished composition. So there you go. If you have any questions, email me or we can talk about it in class. Have fun.